When you do, you will actually get 20% off your order. So take advantage of it. Some of the best health supplements you can get. And then Dr. Stengler turns around and gives a donation to our ministry. All right, we want to go to the phones for our guest, Erin Brewer. Erin, first, please give out your website again so folks know where they can go to get some of these important resources.
Sure, it's advocatesprotectingchildren.org, and we welcome people to email us if you have any questions. And one thing I wanted to just mention before the break, that another part of this whole therapy ban is that there are efforts to suggest that if a parent doesn't accept this transgender identity of their child, that they're actually committing abuse. And I've had parents whose school counselors or their child's therapists have called Child Protective Services on them for not affirming their child's identity. And this is an agenda that the UN has, the Special Rapporteur for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, is trying to get past international resolutions that would make just not affirming a child conversion therapy. So not even talk therapy, but just anybody in that child's life who doesn't affirm their trans identity would be considered guilty of conversion therapy.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I mean, you're talking about a real war on parents, about the war on parents, therefore a war on children as well. And I mentioned in Canada, you had a couple, I believe, separated. The daughter wanted to be called by a male name. 14 years old, the school was encouraging her in this direction. She wanted to begin to get hormone therapy. The father said no. The mother was in favor. The courts ruled against the father and then said, you are not allowed to talk about this case. You are not allowed to refer to your daughter as a girl or use her name, even in private. And when he spoke out publicly, he went to jail for that. I spoke with him on the phone. We may have him on the radio to talk more about it. All right, let's go to LaDonna in Fort Worth, Texas. You're on the line of fire. Are you there, LaDonna?
Yes. Well, my first husband. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, my first husband. Yeah, my first husband was transgender. I learned about 2 years into the marriage. So what I learned was that transgenderism is a spirit. It would come on my husband, a perfectly good husband, at will. One night when I first learned about it, we heard something like you hear in the horror movies, ooh, go through the vents. And my husband said, I know what that is. And he got up, and in the back of the closet, he got out a lady's outfit, a blouse and skirt, shoes. I didn't know what was going on, but he said, I've got to burn these. And when he burned them, the noise stopped. It scared him bad enough. I found out what was going on and scared him bad enough to stay away, just not have anything to do with that. The more he would dress or give in to that spirit, the more entrenched it would become. And it would torture him. He could never look good enough. However good he looked as a lady, he could never look good enough. It tortured him to be perfect.
Well, and a lot of the research is showing that men who have adopted a trans identity, it's actually a sexual fetish, that they get aroused at the idea of themselves being a woman. And so when we talk about allowing these men access to spaces where women are vulnerable, what we're doing is we're encouraging that sexual fetish. And as you said, when somebody encourages a sexual fetish, it just gets worse.
Yeah, and you think about the torment. I can't relate to it. I'm not minimizing it. Torment kids go through, but for sure, there's a better way. Hey, LaDonna, that's a very personal, painful memory. Thanks for sharing that. And let's talk about this. Let's just say it's 1 in 10 males that now identify as females and have some sexual fetish or are using this just to infiltrate girls' bathrooms or girls' locker rooms. Let's say it's 1 in 10. Let's say it's 1 in 100. You don't open the door to that. You don't give place to that. And let's also remember that this is not a matter of quote sexual orientation. In other words, there are men who are deeply attracted to women, but they believe they themselves are women. They believe they are lesbian women trapped in a man's body. So they may quote transition to be female, but they're still attracted to female. And here we're opening the door. And then what about kids that if you work with the kid in different ways, maybe 80% or more of kids who identify as trans before puberty, after puberty, no longer do. But doesn't it change if you encourage that kid's identity and tell Sally you're now Sam and have him go to school dressed as a boy and using male pronouns and sharing the bathroom and get on hormones? I mean, it shifts it in a complete other direction, doesn't it?
Well, and it's not compassionate at all to encourage this kind of dissonant thought process. When we have girls who present with anorexia nervosa, we don't tell them that yes, they are fat and that they should get liposuction because we understand that their thought processes are wrong, and we help them to resolve that. When we have a kid who comes home from school and says I'm ugly and stupid, we don't say, "Oh, you're right." We help them to understand that that's not true, and that all of God's people are lovable. All of us have something to give to society. But when we encourage these difficult thoughts, when we encourage people to feel badly about themselves, when we encourage fetishes, we know that if somebody starts watching pornography, the more they watch it, the more they go into deeper and darker and more destructive pornography. And so one of the reasons that society has prohibitions and stigmas around these kinds of things is because it's protective. And what this movement is trying to do is remove the stigmatization of basically any kind of sexual fetish, any kind of proclivity, and try and normalize it. And when that happens, every single child is in danger.
Yeah, it's the truth. And look, in my book, A Queer Thing Happened to America, that came out in 2011, I had a lengthy chapter comparing arguments for homosexuality with arguments for pedophilia. And I'm not saying homosexuals are pedophiles. Every gay man I've ever talked to, if the subject came up, he thought it was despicable and horrific, etc. But in point of fact, all the same arguments are used. It's born this way. I can't change. It's found throughout history. It's been affirmed at different points in history. It's actually positive and beneficial in mutually consenting relationships. It's found in the world of nature. And it was the exact same arguments that were used. And then some of the earliest gay activists were themselves members of NAMBLA, the North American Boy Love Association, and even talk of, quote, intergenerational intimacy, and now the attempt from others to destigmatize pedophilia. So, yes, I understand it's a separate category, but it's all in the same stream of attacking the norms, of attacking the norms of family, of attacking God created us male and female, etc. And that's why it's so important that as many as possible raise their voices. In fact, Aaron, I'm scheduled to interview an absolutely non-Christian woman who transitioned to man, who is now screaming at the top of her lungs, don't let this happen to the children. We must work together. Atheists, evangelicals, whoever, Republicans, Democrats, this is a war on children. And this woman has suffered terribly in her own life because of what she went through, and said the same thing. A whole lot of money's being made, lifetime prescriptions to all kinds of drugs. And there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of evil here that needs to be exposed. Hey, Aaron, one last time, give us your website.
It's Advocates for
Friends, check it out. See what you can do to get involved. And together, friends, we are making a difference, and we will make a difference. Aaron, thanks so much for giving us an hour of your time. We appreciate it.
Well, and thank you so much for shining some light on this really difficult subject.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Great to have Erin Brewer, and what she has been part of is known as Compassion Coalition, because these things are about compassion. It's not about hatred. It's not about anger. Oh, I am deeply grieved over those pushing all kinds of nonsense on children. That grieves me, and that angers me in a holy way. I want them to find mercy and repentance as well. I don't wish evil for them. I wish them to find mercy and repentance and new life in the Lord. But to be pushing this on little children, the influences doing it, God help you, because God really has his eyes on these little ones. Back with you tomorrow.